My name is Priscilla, and I am a local and national advocate for girls who have been sexually abused, and this is why. By the age of 12, I was molested by 2 family members. By the age of 13, I was questioning if I was miscarrying my father's child. At age 14, I stood before a judge and I lied to protect my family. And at age 15, I was trapped for almost 4 years in a relationship I thought was love. And then, in my early 20s, well, I took the road less traveled. By this point, I started to believe the lies that my experience of sexual abuse and incest was normal. I come from a large family, my dad having 14 brothers and sisters, my mom having 8. My dad's father, my grandpa, sexually abused all of his kids, so my dad repeated the cycle. Because of what happened to me as a child, society says I should be in a foster home or on the streets. I should be serving jail time or stuck with identity issues. But I'm not. I'm not broken. I'm not a statistic. I chose to rise above what society says I should be. This is because of my faith, forgiveness, redemption, and my Heavenly Father. I am the first to graduate with a bachelor's degree in education. I now serve as an advocate for girls who've been sexually abused here in Ingham County. I'm a motivational speaker, a worship leader at a local church. I serve on the board for the House of Promise, and I'm a soon-to-be author. This is what I do know. You do not have to repeat the cycle. No matter what your story is, where you come from, or what happened to you, those things do not need to define you. As a matter of fact, as a motivational speaker, I encourage others to allow life's negative circumstances to refine them. I believe hope is a person. His name is Jesus. And you senators and legislators today can also be people who instill hope by creating the necessary change that is still needed to end sexual abuse. As we know, sexual abuse is not biased to a culture, a race, a gender, or one's economical status. This disease is not a respecter of people. It's actually a very selfish act. As we all know, sexual abuse doesn't just affect the individual. It tears families, workplaces, and environments apart. I believe we can create positive change for the victim and its family through counseling, education on the subject in schools, advocacy so that no one feels alone, reaching out to our local churches to provide spiritual guidance and support, and making room for victims to have a voice. All of these things can play a role into reshaping someone's life. As far as the perpetrators, I believe there is man's law and God's law, and we are to obey both. I also believe that there should always be consequences for crimes committed. But as we know, not everyone gets sent to prison for over 100 years the way Larry Nassar did. Many perpetrators get paroled and/or have served their time. But when perpetrators never get the help they need to get to the heart and root of the problem that caused them to commit the crime to begin with, the cycle continues. I'm not by any means trying to excuse their behavior, but rather I'm trying to identify and develop a plan of action to correct the problem. Because while being an advocate is an honorable service, not getting to the root of the issue is a disservice and allows for this vicious cycle of crime to continue. Our prison systems can no longer be adult babysitting. I don't know all of the answers and solutions for perpetrators and felons, but I do know that we have to do something so that when prisoners have done their time, they don't get out and recommit the crime, creating even more victims. So, either we extend the sentence for sexual abuse or we provide rehabilitation in hopes to get people on the right track. I personally believe that rehabilitation should be available for every person behind bars: the drug dealer, the addict, the murderer, the prostitute, the fraudulent, the thief, and the sexual predator. Even if they have a life sentence, I believe we can't leave people where they are. We have to get to the heart of why people make the decisions that they do. I believe God made a way for everyone to make it, and my passion is to help everyone make it too, both the victim and the perpetrator. I have to include the perpetrator because it's the only way to truly end sexual abuse and the damaging effects it has in our lives and communities. Thank you.